flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Stinson?
Present.
Commissioner Montoya?
Present.
Vice Chairman Scott?
Here.
Commissioner Mays? Mayers. Sorry, I said Mays again, didn't I? Commissioner Bernstein?
Here.
Commissioner Bacon?
Present.
And Chairman Metcalf?
Present.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of October the 9th. A motion?
I'll make a motion to approve minutes of October 9th, 2024.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Old business. Cool PD 241038, major site plan application submitted by Tim Miller and David Tobias of the Procter & Gamble Manufacturing Company for an approximate 80-acre fabric care facility and related site improvements in the 427-acre parcel owned by Procter & Gamble at the IPZ. Inland Port of Arizona Industrial Park per a standard industrial I-2 zoning district, section 702C48, manufacturing use, as being situated southeast of the intersection of East Eureka Road and Union Pacific Railroad, APN number 401-48-035C. Discussion action. Mr. Lopez.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, very happy to have a site plan before you for a company we've been waiting for, Procter & Gamble. And it was years ago, they did their announcement on, I think it was during the holiday, and we met council. And so they've been working diligently on their drawings, plans, engineering, everything else. And so they're here tonight to submit a site plan for your review, and we'll have Phil review it. But just wanted to share when I first knew it was Procter & Gamble, because it was called For Your Eyes Only. They used a different name before. And just around my house, I counted 16 of their products. When you look around, you don't realize just how many products are all over. And then some they've spun off and some they bought. So it's pretty amazing. So we're very, very happy to have them here tonight and make the presentation. I'll have Phil, with your permission. Phil will start showing you some slides, and then once that happens, then we can ask the team that's here to present to you, say a few words if you'd like. Thank you. Phil?
Okay. As usual, our site exhibit here. You can see the subject property, 427 acres here, bounded by Erica, Vale Road, and Shed Road to the south, and we have the railroad to the west side here. Our general plan, as can be seen for most of the areas within IPAS here, is designated in the purple, or the fuchsia, I guess, industrial and manufacturing. Once again, the subject site right here. And for our major site plan for the manufacturing use for Procter & Gamble, you can see all of IPAS as I2 General Industrial here. Once again, the subject site. A couple of photographs here. We have in the upper left here, we're generally looking to the northeast from the intersection of Shed Road and the railroad in this direction. Moving to the right here, you can see the mountains in the background here. So this is looking generally southeast from the intersection of Erica Road and once again the Pacific Railroad here. And as we move to our final photo here on the bottom, this is the site looking generally southwest from the intersection of Erica Road being here and Vale Road, which would be this in the future. So the information that was provided, we got a couple of plan sets, one kind of calling out basically the black line detail, another kind of showing some of the landscape retention areas. So what I did, since this is such a large piece of property, it's very difficult to get it into a kind of paper space. So I've kind of dice it up here a little bit, and we're going to primarily concentrate on just the view areas of 1 and 2 here, which were in your packets, but I also put a memo with it indicating that these other areas within this sort of index overlay here, that I'd have that available in case we ever wanted to look at something, even though generally it's farmland or the agricultural area. So we'll go to view 1 here first. As one can see, this is basically the black line detail. We have Erica Road here, Vale Road running north-south here. This would be the northeast portion of the property. Being right here, you can see the relationship to the overall property relative to the view we're looking at here. And what we have here is the truck entrance coming into this portion of the property, a guard house, some parking areas for trucks, the continuation area through here, and just moving a little bit to the north here, or excuse me, to the east. This is an HV substation, which is currently actually being worked on from sort of a base material and the fence around there. That's actually going to be staging laydown area, but later that will be the high voltage substation. Right here we have the personnel entrance, which comes off this portion of Erica Road, runs down this way parallel to Vale Road, while other improvements are conducted here. So, and just a couple things here. Here's the guardhouse again, just calling out some of the utilities, some of the width factors here, which are all part of the report. We're just going to try to keep this short so we can have the applicant be available for answering questions and adding additional detail. So we just moved from what we were looking at in view 1 to view 2 here, sliding to the south, north being this way. So once again, we have the continuation of Vale Road here. Here is the terminus of the truck route, which comes into the larger truck parking area adjacent to the Procter & Gamble manufacturing facility. Some call outs for the personal parking area here. This is where the personal entrance comes and terminates initially at this guardhouse entrance right here. Later it would connect into Vale Road here. And just calling out some other detail that we'll look at a little more at some other slides. The tank farm here, and then the portion where the rail spur would come from the main line. So as I said, we're just going to take a quick view at 3 and 4 here. This is the southeast portion of the larger project right here. As you can see, a little bit farming, a little bit of desert there. Calling out the larger piece, which is this west side of the property, showing this entire area. Once again, this is the 427 acres. Here you can primarily see the main line, and this is the rail spur that would come up and connect to the main manufacturing facility. Moving on to some of the other plan sets that were provided with us. You saw a little bit of this detail, but what we're seeing here, and this is just the index area. So this is view 1 and view 2, so we're going to go take a look at view 1 in the next slide here. So this is this area enlarged here that you just saw. So this is the relationship of 1, and then the next one we'll see. Once again, the personnel entrance coming up this way, proceeding south towards the main facility gate entrance. You can see good amounts of proposed landscaping, trees, ground cover, vegetation. Here's some retention areas with some other landscaping in and around it. You can see the drive lanes and the striping here for coming onto and off of the property. This portion, once again, is the truck route. Once again, this is the electrical substation, which is the laydown yard for right now. Some improvements that are being done out there right now. Once again, you can see a continuation of the retention areas, some of the landscaping in and around it. Landscaping here to this portion of the main entrance for the truck area, some of the striping. Coming into the staging areas, you can see a little bit better here for the truck area. This particular guard shack, and then of course the landscaping showing it around here. And this area 2.1, that's just kind of a little bit of a zoom in a little further here just to show the lines as they were continuing as they come into the plant. So that was just a little bit of extra there. This one, just going to briefly reference it because we're going to look at mostly this particular one here, but you can see I've sliced it up into view 3, 4, 5, kind of a 5.1 here, just as for some extra information, and view 6. This one, it is as it is. It says to be added landscaping south of the Vale Road entrance. So what I did is I took the existing information on the plan set, just kind of copied and pasted it over here, added in the red to highlight it, because our zoning code does require that a proposal like this, although it's using 80 acres of the parent parcel's 427 acres, that it have a combination of screening and landscaping that front the entire project. So, and that has been actually added to the stipulations, and the applicant has looked at the staff report, but we can discuss that further a little later. So I'm just going to take a quick view of these other areas and spend a little bit of time on this as we proceed on to the other slides. Once again, this is the main area. View 3 is right here of the site that we were just looking at. The building is right here. So you can see the fire water tank and pump house, one of the stormwater retention basin areas. Once again, this is the personnel access, the landscaping that is parallel to that. We're going to slide down here to view 4 and just take a quick look at that. Once again, one of the retention areas, the larger staging area for the truck area, for the parking staging, that would be adjacent to the facility itself. So we're going to move up here to view 5, which once again is the personnel entrance coming this way, and then later on as it would connect to Vale Road, showing the landscaping. I didn't add the detail here because it's on the other notation and within the stipulations, so I figured that was okay. This area is just kind of zooming in on it since I had to chop it off here so you could see the continuation to the improvements in just the area of this other retention. And then the primary main aspect for this part of the drawings are showing the landscaping in and around the parking lot area here, a nice distribution of, once again, trees, shrubs, ground cover, as it would be oriented towards the front of the building, about 360,000 square feet of the manufacturing facility. You can see the outline of it, how it extend out here, call out for the tank farm in this particular area, and then in proximity to it, once again, the rail spur on this side of the line, and north being this way again. So the building that we're just looking at, this is basically looking at it towards the front part of the building across the parking lot, kind of like across the desert or the farmland here. So you get a basic idea of what kind of construction we're talking about here. It's a little easier to see right here, entrance area, 1-story type construction, maybe offices, different things like that. And then obviously you can see the other areas here. It's about 2 stories, maybe a little higher and stuff, just as a called out reference here. It could look like this, might look a little bit different. We were actually very privileged that they were kind of share this kind of detail with us so that you folks could see this as well like that. So outside of that, I will go kind of back to the top because it's nice to see the line detail overlaying the existing site the way that it's been used for farming. And then I'll probably go between view 1 and view 2 in this area unless there's some other things that we want to kind of bounce back to. So that's the general presentation that I have this evening. So Mr. Chair, I know that our applicants are here, would very much like to add some additional detail questions if you would entertain letting them approach the podium.
Please.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. So I'm David Nieves with Procter & Gamble, Senior Director for Manufacturing. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to meet with us and present, an exciting part of our progress. I'm accompanied with Ken Mylar, who's our engineer for the program, Ashley Watkins, who's our construction leader, and then my partner, Julie, who helps us with external relations. So we're very excited to be in Coolidge. We bought this property 2 years ago. It's the 3rd piece of land we've purchased in the U.S. since 1971. So it's a very big testament of where we want to be. It took a lot of selection to get here. Over 600 sites were surveyed across 7 states, and the city, the county, and the state have been absolutely welcoming, and this is a place that we want our future factories serving the West Coast with low-water products. So we're very happy to be here. As you can see on the site plan, and Phil also pointed out that we've started with a temporary use permit and dust permit, creating the laydown area for the substation. And we're continuing to further design and develop what are the inside and the sizing of the building and some of the other loads at this point, which obviously we'll bring at a future date. So we are starting the development of our project here on the eastern side of the property, so kind of northeastern side. As you may know, as part of this picture, in the top left will be Global Water, and that's where our water will come from. And so we selected this location to make sure that we have the close location for all our utilities to start the program. Okay, so I think, Phil, we've been working several months on this, so I think he explained it very well. So I want to see if there's any questions you have about the plan that we have.
Have any questions?
I have a couple of questions. Go back to the original picture that was up there, where it has view 1, 2, and 3. That one. Over there in view 3, those lines coming down, those darker lines are earth fissures. Are you guys aware that they're in that area on your property?
So we have done a complete fissure study. There were some suspected fissures. We've done a complete study and actually a core, a trenching exercise, and we've actually did not, this was probably the area that was the highest probability for us prior to purchasing the land, and we, at that time, we didn't find any evidence of an actual fissure. What we did see with aerial photos was, growth across irrigation ditches, which led us to this area for that. But this time, we've done about 7 different trench digging at this time, that there was not a fissure at that area. If we were to build over an area of this area, we would start our program with making sure that the ground is stable, obviously, before we put our foundation.
Okay, good. Just had to ask the obvious, I guess.
Well, it wasn't obvious for some of us not from Arizona, so it's something we researched a couple years ago.
Yeah, if you go a little bit east of there out in the desert, you can lose your car out there in some of those.
Yeah,
They're quite active.
thank you.
Let's see here. On the page that has view 1, view 2, and view 2. Yeah, that one.
Do you want to see view 2 zoomed in or 1 or 2.1?
Well, that's good. Could I just go to the screen and point to it?
Sure.
Instead of trying to explain it to you?
Go ahead.
Is it both of them you want to look at? Because I can zoom into the 1 or 2.
I was just noticing in this area up here, this is Erica Road? Yes. In this area up here, and then this area down here, there's no plants that are street facing. And I didn't know if they were just left off by accident, or you have like a future plan.
Yeah, so we have executed the landscaping around our field, so around the road. But if there's a recommendation from the city to pull them closer to the edge of the property, we'd be willing to make adjustments. So our goal was any areas where you would see something different, so like this would be actually a berm to kind of block the view of the switchgear. And then this landscaping would block the cover of the street to kind of keep the desert appeal. But if there's a recommendation to be more perimeter faced, we'd be willing to make the adjustments.
I just noticed in the other pictures that, they're kind of around the perimeter. So I was just curious why they were omitted in that area, maybe by accident or
No,
by plan.
Ms. Chair, Vice Chair, in that area, because they're not building there yet, it's not required to be landscaped. It's only in the areas they're building because it's such a large site. So when they go to build in that area in the future, they might have to tear all that out. So right now, if they want to put the road there, that's fine. But that landscaping is not required. They've shown it like they want to install it, which is, if they do, that's great. It's up to them. But as far as from our requirements, it's not required to be in there. That's only required on the portion they're building on the streetscape.
I just noticed in the text, the project description, there was, it looked like a generous amount of trees, 238 trees.
Right.
I was just making sure there was enough room to plant all those, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if
I think we have enough
they
space.
alter those, we'll when we're going through the civils and the landscape plans and all that, so it could change a little bit. This is conceptual, so we'll look at all that and make sure they meet the minimums. A lot of times they go beyond that because they build facilities, so ours are just minimum standard. I don't think we'll have an issue with Procter & Gamble on that.
Thank you. I might come up with another one.
All right.
Let somebody else take a turn.
I just want to add too, on one of the recommendations, we talk about Shed Road because that's on the canal and it kind of dead ends along the canal on the other side. So One of the things we'd like to do is replace recommendation number 11 with the second from the bottom paragraph on page number 3. If you notice, it said Shed Road.
Page number what?
3?
Three?
3, yeah. It's got a little paragraph there, and it talks about the city and Procter & Gamble will work out when they get to that area what the right-of-way needs are, because we don't believe that'll ever go through. So we're going to work with Procter & Gamble in the future to see what our needs are on right-of-way. So right now, we're just leaving it the way it is. And,
What's going to happen with the, we have a CAP main canal there? Is it going to be fenced off or trees along it, or?
Right now, it's just going to be left alone, but in the future, it depends on what the plant expands out to that area, then there would be fence or.
There's some picnic tables and fishing areas or something like, just for the
There are
employees.
fish in there. I've seen people going in there
I've seen a
fishing.
lot of people in there.
Yeah.
What they're catching, but. Okay,
It'd probably be where Rick Miller would go get some fish, because he's the fisherman, so,
yeah, he was the first one that smiled when I said that.
fish.
Probably wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, so Phil, if you can zoom out to the larger view. So just, what Phil was mentioning is kind of this area here, which is also, I think, where you're mentioning. So this will be undeveloped at this time. So we'll work together on how we'll execute Shed Road, because the primary road's supposed to be Eric Clark and Bill. And then
You can show it.
these wells are not owned by us, and so they'll be maintained with approved easements for them.
We can show the canal so you can see what it looks like if it works.
I'm sure the CAP has regulations for those canals. I was just curious what you guys might put up
Yeah.
to run alongside of them. It's probably like 20 feet deep, isn't it? I don't know how far it is. They're rather large.
The canal, yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Any other questions?
When do you feel that you're going to get started in the building process?
Yeah, so,
Just a rough date?
so the date, we're still, as a company, analyzing the date for the larger build that you see in view 2, as we want to size it properly and have the right energy sustainability programs. So right now, the focus for the site that we are moving forward with our temporary use permit, is enabling the infrastructure, right? So when you have a greenfield or a new piece of land, our primary focus is getting the long lead infrastructure, rail, water, electricity. And so we are moving with that, and at the same time, we'll be doing the designs here. So we don't have a date yet, but as soon as we have a date, we'll obviously make an announcement and come here as we have further
You're
designs.
thinking like 2026 or something? Is that,
Yeah, we don't have a date at this time.
okay, that's fair.
Any more questions?
I do.
Okay.
So just taking a look here, looking at view 1, is there any plan to put any signage over there? Coming off of that road?
So currently, we, like Procter & Gamble signage, or?
Just in general, any signage, it could be Procter & Gamble, anything else that you deem necessary?
Yeah, at this stage, we don't expect to put signage in that area. We will do some fencing, for the switchgear, but we're currently not planting signs in that area. When we have the build over in view 2, we will have signage at that area, which we will come for approval with the landscaping and the viewpoint.
Okay.
So early on, we won't signage the plant till we start building the larger building.
Okay. And then,
So, yeah, we may, depending on, like, site security, we may do some no trespassing stuff, but at this point, we haven't decided to do that, but that may be something we entertain.
okay. And then you did mention like sustainability and renewability of energy and stuff like that. I don't see it on the site plan, and I'm not going to. Is there a plan for that? Are you guys allocating for that?
Yeah, so as a company, we're leaders in sustainability all the way from our suppliers to the factories we produce. So every factory is 100% run on equivalent power from renewable energy. We have We have plans corporately to use 30% water by 2030 and be zero greenhouse gas by 2040. So we will see in further phases, but, you know, this is planned to be the most sustainable plant that we have.
Okay, so in phase one, is there a plan to have renewable energy via solar, just water efficiency, things like that?
Yes, yeah, there are. So there's, you know, I can't talk about all the plans, but what I can say is, number one, we will be leaders from a water standpoint. Number one, by selecting low water products, as we made in our announcement, Tide Pods, Downy Unstoppable Beads, Bounce Dryer Sheets. So selecting the products we make, which are low water. And then we will have some new technology, which we'll announce at a later date, on our utilities to further reduce our water by more than 50% for running the facility.
Okay, so, and the reasoning for my question is just to see on the site plan here, if there was a location that you were trying to put solar panels or battery energy storage system, something like that. I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, so currently the way that so we have wind farms in Texas where we kind of offset the same amount of energy, so we will use energy supply from APS as a supply. More of the energy, the renewable energy done on site will be in more of, I would say, a micro scale. So we're not gonna have 100 acres of solar, or the whole building level with solar due to efficiency. But our goal is to lower the energy use that we have and ensure that we have, as a company, enough renewable energy, you know, investments that it supports the same level of kilowatts that we use for the site, or megawatts.
I guess this is just a question for you, Gilbert and Phil, for this type of site plan here, are they gonna have to come before the P and Z for any renewables or anything like that that they want onto the site plan?
If there's a major change to the site plan, but it would have to be really major. But now if it's, because I don't think they anticipate putting like solar facilities or anything like that. They're buying their power through APS. But minor changes, we look at it administratively. A couple of changes here and there, that's like we did with Nikola, because these projects are totally ongoing, so they may say, okay, we have to shift something over a little bit. You know, we look at it administratively, keep them going. We don't shut them down, and, you know, they got to build this thing, so we're going to do everything we can. Now, when they expand and bring in other phases, yeah, of course, that so you can see it. And like when, you know, the different portions are added, they'll have site plan, it'll come back through that process back to you. This facility, anything that you're seeing now, unless there's a big major change that would take place, we don't anticipate it having to come back. So, which is how we did Nikola. You know, they're going through and they had a few minor adjustments. We do that administratively. But on the larger stuff, it does come back. Hope that helps answer your question.
Yeah, I mean, it answers part of my question. I mean, just looking at the different views, 127 personal parking spaces, large truck parking spaces. To me, that seems like a great place for solar over the top of it. And that's why I'm just trying to understand if that's gonna be major enough to have it come back.
Yeah, because it's part of the parking, it would normally, because if we put it in, you know, like Nikola did, they put over the parking, we didn't bring that back, because it's just normal standard accessory uses property, so we wouldn't, unless it's something that's the large portion, all of a sudden, you know, it changes that much, we'd bring it back to you. Substantial change.
Okay, that answers my question then. Thank you.
Good.
Any more questions?
I have one more. Looking at the site plan, and I understand there's some variations to it, but the tank farm, you have one access point in that's pretty rough getting to, according to the way it's looking. Is there plans for a secondary entrance or exit from that facility, that area, for emergency responders or anything?
So we've had several, so it will definitely be to code. So it'll definitely be to any fire and/or environmental code or hazardous material code. We've had several iterations where we had even for delivery, we like to separate personnel cars versus truck cars. So we will have contingencies, but, you know, right now, this is where our drawing is, but we will obviously overlay any codes, safety, resilience, or, you know, contingency plans during it.
And Mr. Chair and Commissioner Stinson, it'll have, when it's the civils start and we're doing all the civils for all the earthwork and the drives and all that, the fire department and engineering will all be involved. And if that's an issue, it'll come up and then they'll be required to add another entrance if this needed for public safety and for fire. But at this point, it's a site plan. It could be added if we need to. It's a good point. Thank you.
More questions?
Thank you for the questions.
And Mr. Chair, there's a section under notifications. The fire department made some comments about the widths and the knock boxes to be able to access everything under the report. So they've looked at this preliminarily and will continue to look at it as we go forward. Right?
Are you satisfied? Make a motion.
Public hearing.
No. Sorry.
Mr. Chair, you can call the comments for anybody within 300 feet of the property.
Yeah. Anybody, this is a. Public hearing. We will now open the public hearing. Anyone within 300 feet of the property wishing to speak, please step to the podium and state your name and address. I don't see anybody coming to the podium. I have no comments. I'm going to close the public hearing. Could I have a motion now?
I'll make a motion to approve Cool PZ 24-10-38.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve Cool PZ 241038, major site plan application. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bill is plan.
Awesome, yeah.
Gilbert, you got anything you want to say?
No, just we're very happy and we look forward to getting some dirt moved and we'll be ready to issue a at-risk grading permit if you'd like, once we get civils in. We've already talked to our public works directors, so we'll help them in any way they need to get going. But it's at their own pace and the design and everything you need to do to make this state-of-the-art, the best facilities in the world, I think. So it's awesome. We're looking
We'll
forward
be
to it.
there to assist you. I think we got to say thank you to that guy in the blue shirt back there too. I think he had a little bit to do with this.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
Really proud to see it happen.
Yes, so are we.
He's part of the team. We have
I
a really
know,
good team.
he is. He's part of the team, still part of the team, even though he resigned, retired.
Beard, getting older.
I know.
Go fishing out in that canal.
You go fishing down there. Okay. School PZ, C 241041. Proposed zoning tree text amendment to the city of Coolidge zoning code, section 5, article 5, section 501, agricultural zone. the principally permitted uses. Data center, ordinance 19-04, effective June 12, 2019. Is deleted in its entirety, and Article 5, Section 501C, additional permitted uses, number 16, data center is added.
Mr. Chair, oh,
Didn't say you get to talk at all. Bill left you out this time.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to give you a little background. We had this, put this in, I think, around 28, where we had allowed data centers as a principal use in ag, but we realized that we really did it to help with iPads because St. Holdings had some property next door, but then we realized that it pretty much allows it anywhere in ag, so we wanted to make sure it's a condition, we moved it into conditional use in the ag right now, just so that if there's any proposed and it's in the right location, it'll come before you to look whether or not we would allow it in the place they want to allow it. And they're already allowed in iPads in industrial zoning, so that's fine, I2, and then I1 allows data centers, but we just want to make sure that if it's in the ag portion of zoning around the city, that if one comes in and it's not in industrial, it has to come through a conditional use for you to consider if that's a good location for it. We'll continue to do some research, and so if we find that most of them are in industrial zoning, we could come back to you, and then look at just putting it in completely in industrial. But right now, we've allowed an ag, and it's quiet and doesn't, we're looking at the ones up in the valley and seeing where they're putting them and how quiet they are, but we're getting some inquiries now, so we want to make sure we're ahead of it and we do it right. So this is a step to just make sure it comes before you on any of them that we might get, but we'll continue to look at it. We may come back to you and change the code a little more to put it, whether it'll be I1, I2, or C2, we're not sure yet, but at least this way it has to go through conditional use before you, okay? That's all this is. It's kind of housekeeping to keep it under control.
Isn't it kind of confusing that everything's lumped into ag, and then we want to take it back out and put it someplace else? Why don't we just stick it there in the first place?
Well, originally in 2018, we were trying to, we knew it was something new, and we were trying to encourage development. So we were trying to be as accommodating for something that we thought was good. At the time, it still is good. And we're not saying it's not. It's a really good, it brings really good taxes to the city. It's used by Facebook, Amazon, and everything we use has AI and data. So there's a lot of data centers up in the valley, but we're starting to get some looks down here on people wanting to consider putting data centers. So we looked at it and said, we need to put a conditional use on this. That way we can make sure it's in the right location, and you'll get to look at that. So like I said, we're reviewing the code further, and we may change it a little more.
So you're just making us aware that the possibility that this could come? and
Well,
it's
this will be an
currently-
actual change to the code. So this actually takes it out as a principal use in ag. It removes it and puts it under conditional use. So the only way it can come and be put in an ag area is if it comes through a conditional use and you approve it. So it takes it out as a principal use. So it's no longer allowed just outright on data centers.
So with the data centers, you're still doing research on it. How long do you think it would take you to do a little bit of that research?
Well, we've been looking at the ones in Mesa, Chandler. I actually been driving up at night and listening to see if they make any noise. And the ones I heard were pretty quiet. Well, I didn't hear anything. I had my phone. I was recording it at night, and I took my wife with me, and I had her here. So her hearing's better than mine. I said, "Do you hear anything?" And it was just like a slight hum. And so we're going to go up and look at the ones in Mesa also and see, because there's some pretty big ones up there. Just to make sure they're quiet, they don't have a lot of activity. Some of them, the new ones, have quite a bit of employees because some of them do AI now. They may have like 100 employees a building, so which would be really good because most of the older data centers don't have a lot of employment, and so they just have some people taking care of all the computer systems. But now the new ones have research and staff and all that. And so they look a lot more something that we'd like to see, for jobs and just technology and the revenue to the city.
Just out of curiosity, how much electricity do they use? How many homes would that be? Would we be jeopardizing our ability to grow in other portions of our city limits because this thing's,
No, I think SRP will bring in, SRP is doing the solar, but APS has looked at these and in a place, if they couldn't provide power, there's no way it wouldn't go in. But you have other sources of power that you could look at, like the WAPA could bring in, they could buy power nationally and then bring it in through those power lines. And ED2 both serves, they use WAPA Power, Western Area Power Administration, and or APS could build a substation, and they've talked about that. They can ramp up the power. It's not finite and it just stops where it's at. They've talked about bringing in. We talk to them all the time about that. So they would bring in additional power for that, but they have the power for the houses to continue to grow because we have a lot of houses that still need power. But every time we look at an industrial use in iPads or anywhere else, we make sure APS or ED2 or somebody, whoever is serving it, is at the table, so we can talk about the needs and what it takes to serve it. If it's super high and it can't be served, then it won't be considered. So APS is a big part of that process.
So with if this is approved, it would have to be a conditional use and brought to us for it to be considered.
Yes.
I guess I just need a little bit more information to see if there's any data centers actually currently in agriculture zones that are around in the valley. Do you know?
Not offhand, I don't. I know they're in a lot of, there's 85 of them up in Maricopa County. That's what the site says. There's a lot. They've been around a long time. There's some. So originally, kind of like the solar, we allowed a certain place, but with conditional use. This one we had principal because it's a building and it's not very big. It doesn't take up a lot of room like the other. And but we just thought the best place to do is put a conditional use on it right now to be able to bring before you while we do our research and look and see if we have to make any more changes to it. So.
Okay.
What's that? Yeah, so it's as Phil just pointed out, this would be the use for it to be allowed. It still would have to go through a major site plan and come back to you, and that process still stays the same. This is just to make sure it's just not a principal use, that it's allowed, and just outright without having to come back. So it would go through a site plan process right now. This will fix that to where it has to come to you before it goes through that process. It has to be approved through you first before it can be considered for site plan and all the other steps.
So as it currently sits, it just has to come to us for site plan review.
Yes, but as it currently sits, that would be the step. So if it's ag and it meets all the requirements, then they would just come in with a site plan. But at that point, it's just a site plan. You can't say, no, we don't, it's not the right place for it. What this does, it allows you to make a decision if it's the right place. Originally, we anticipated they'd be down in iPads, but now we're seeing interest closer to town. So this kind of came up, and I'm like, oh, we better fix this.
I mean, is there any potential for an immediate request to put a data center in an agricultural zone?
No, and so we want to do this right now, and then it'll go to council next. If you approve it, then it'll go to council at the next meeting.
I mean, I'm just thinking of you're talking about doing a little bit more research,
Yeah.
kind of understanding it a little bit better. If we do this approval now, and then it has to come back for another approval just to change it,
Well,
why can't we just do a little bit of research now?
because if somebody comes in prior to that, and then they'll be in line to do it, we couldn't change it and then say, okay, now you have to go back to P&Z. You can't because it's already gotten in the process. So I've had some just calls, but nothing, solid. But that's what kind of brought this to our attention. So I'd rather not wait because this will allow it to come to you while we do some more. I mean, we may leave it just the way it is with conditional use. So we've done the research we need to do for this portion of it, if we change it further, it'll be based on what's done in other places, but we can see what works for us. I mean, we don't have to follow what everybody else does. But right now, the conditional use would be the best thing.
What zoning code is it in right now?
It's an ag.
Okay.
Yeah, it's allowed as a principal use in ag right now.
Yeah, I did look the code up. I was just asking you to make sure you knew.
You do?
I looked the code up.
Oh, good. Okay. Oh, you saw it.
Commission members, the research that we're doing would really be applied through the major site plan process. The conditional use permit portion that Gilbert said is just for the use to ensure that it's a proper location. The research that we're doing would really be mostly heavily used in the major site plan process.
That makes a lot more sense.
More questions? Public? Open the floor to the public, about within 300 feet.
Anyone. Yeah.
Overall, oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a text change to the code because we don't, yeah.
We're not talking about specific locations, we're talking about huge locations.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
By having, anybody from the public wish to speak? Okay. Public session is closed. I'll accept a motion.
I motion to approve Cool PZ 24-10-41 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, just the big event, of course, is Procter & Gamble's site plan. We're excited about that. And then some of the other things around, we have a lot of activity down south around iPads, different businesses looking at some of the other open lots. And then we have another areas also throughout the city. In the city itself, we have Wendy's moving really fast. I'm sure you've seen the building, the sheathing's up. It's moving at quite a brisk pace, we're happy to say. And so it'll be a matter of time, we'll be tasting that chili, so, and just get those square hamburgers going out there. So we're pretty excited about that. And then there's other activity, Real Roberto's, they submitted plans, if you remember, just north of the Chinese food restaurant, right? Yeah, there's they've gotten their state-approved plans for their manufactured building. It looks exactly what they brought to you. So I told them it has to look exactly the same or it can't be used. So, but they're just making it in the building so that they'll ship it in components and put it together on a slab, so you won't be able to tell the difference. But they had to go through the state to do that, and that's happening. And so we've had a lot of other things on the boulevard we're looking at. A new doctor's office opened up, Safeway Plaza. You saw that, and so we've been talking to different ones. I talked to an urgent care a while back, so we'll see. We keep trying to add as we grow more houses, more people here, and the community grows. We'll keep adding services. People would like to see additional restaurants and different things, so we're always looking and providing data, and hopefully we'll get some more things before you so you can improve them. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Did you happen to click the article in the internet the other day about Coolidge being the best location in the state of Arizona?
It's awesome, but I didn't see it. I've been seeing a lot of. Oh, well, I'll have to pull that up, put it on the web. Yeah, that's great. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Homes are the lowest price, the cost of living in Coolidge is the cheapest.
Good.
Everything was number one.
Good.
Holy smokes,
That's awesome.
somebody likes us.
Very good.
Okay,
Call the public. Call to the public? We still got to go through the motions, so.
anybody from Procter & Gamble. Be there to support you.
Here for a motion.
Yeah, I'm ready for a motion.
Make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, all say aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Nope.